Hi, I'm Maya Van Rossum, the Delaware Riverkeeper. The Delaware Riverkeeper Network is presenting a series of interviews taking a critical look at the shale gas industry and its impact on our communities, our environment, and on our future. Today I'm going to be joined by Professor Anthony Ingraffea. Dr. Ingraffea is the Dwight C. Bound Professor of Engineering at Cornell University. Dr. Ingraffea will discuss industry claims that shale gas is an alternative fuel and also talk about the impacts of the drilling industry. I'd like to thank the Chestnut Hill Inn here in Milford, New Jersey for hosting us today.
Even if water wells are not contaminated, the fact that the wells are leaking methane means that the methane gets into the atmosphere. Methane is a greenhouse gas. It's a very potent greenhouse gas, much more potent than carbon dioxide. So 35 to 40% of all the wells that have been drilled in the world are leaking methane into the atmosphere right now. Every time we drill another one, there's a high probability that we're going to be leaking more methane into the atmosphere. So, probability, certainty, 100% probable. I started off down here with the fracking. Now I'm up to the first couple thousand feet where all these problems occur. Let's get to the surface. Bringing all those chemicals in very large volumes to a pad to drill the 10 or 12 wells that are on that pad, hundreds of thousands of gallons of deleterious chemicals. Sometimes they spill, sometimes they leak. In the worst possible place, at the surface. How much closer can you get to drinking water than on the surface? All right, so the chemicals have to get transported to a site. They have to be stored on the site. They have to be injected. They come back up as flowback, along with a lot of other bad stuff that's been stored down there for a couple 100 million years that we're now bringing to the surface and potentially exposing humans to. Millions of gallons per well, hundreds of thousands of wells, billions of gallons of contaminated fluid has to be captured, stored, transported, processed. It's a heavy industrial activity. Things go wrong. There are leaks, there are spills along the way, and as I said, I'm much more concerned about a spill or leak at or on the surface than one that's 7,000 feet underground. Our sources of drinking water are that river, I'm pointing to the Delaware, and its tributaries, and private water wells coming out of aquifers that also wind up in that river. If those get contaminated, the river gets contaminated. All right. What else? So now started at 7,000 feet, came up to a couple thousand feet, came up to the surface. Let's go up. How far up do you want to go? Let's see, the atmosphere extends a couple 100,000 feet. It sounds like a lot. 20 miles? The thickness of the atmosphere is less than the distance from here to my hometown upriver. What's going on in the atmosphere? Greenhouse gases. So if you're producing a lot of methane from shale gas, where are you going to produce it? You're going to burn it. If you're going to burn it, you're going to get carbon dioxide because methane is a fossil fuel. No way around it. You burn it, you get carbon dioxide. Oh yeah, but you get less carbon dioxide per unit of energy than burning coal or oil. Absolutely true. But you still get carbon dioxide at a time when we should not be increasing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This is at a time we should be decreasing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So why burn more fossil fuels if you don't have to? Methane, unlike coal and oil, gets you 3 times. When you burn it, you get carbon dioxide. If you don't burn it, you get methane. And if you process it, you get black carbon, soot. Okay? So the 3 most important greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, soot, black carbon, all come from the production, transportation, burning, and purposeful or accidental emission of methane into the atmosphere. It's a triple threat.
And what happens to the landscape if you're going into some of these rural, suburban, even forested areas? What happens to the landscape as they develop the wells, the well pads?
The landscape changes. Traditional oil and gas development was a single well on a single pad, hit and miss. You might drill a well here and maybe you strike gas and oil, maybe you don't. If you don't, you go a couple miles away and drill another well on another pad. That's not shale gas. Shale gas is 500 feet apart, parallel portions of shale gas wells. Each parallel portion, called a lateral, is a mile or two long, 500 feet apart forever. North, south, east, west. Total patterning. On the surface, what you see is a pad, but not with one well, with many wells. 10, 12, 16, 20 wells on a pad. And those pads are not 1 acre pads. They're 10, 20, 30 acre pads because they have to have a lot of space to drill a lot of wells. They have to have a lot of space for containment ponds, for storage ponds. You're going to be fragmenting forest, which is not good for native species of plants or animals. You're going to be taking down a lot of trees. That's not good from the point of view of sustainability or decreasing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. By the way, that's another, I should have said there are 4 things wrong with shale gas because we kill so many trees along the way because it's a heavy industrial activity. You have to drill, you have to create many pads. Each pad, you're knocking down a lot of trees. All right? So the trees that we're taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, we substitute for them methane in the atmosphere and carbon dioxide. It's insane. Communities will change, regions will change, counties will change. And the contrast here is, and I'm coming from New York where we just had 2 landmark decisions by our almost highest court in the state saying that communities in New York can zone out heavy industrial activity. All other industrial activities other than oil and gas, because they each have their own special set, they have their own special set of laws in each state, oil and gas law. All other industrial activities where they're zoning have to take place in an industrial zone, typically inside of a building in an industrial zone. There's logic behind that. You have industry and industrial zones, you have commerce and commercial zones, you have people living in residential zones, and you have school zones and hospital zones, and they're supposed to be separate activities from the point of view of safety, security, peace of mind, peace and quiet, clean air, clean water, no light pollution, no dust pollution. But since shale gas is so ubiquitous, it's spatially intense, you have to have a pad every mile in every direction. We're now asked to live inside their industrial zone. The industrial zone is a region. It's not a small concentrated area adjacent to a town. It's a region.